The K-Bar Fin, designed by Peter Janda, is a fixed blade tactical knife that crosses over pretty smoothly into the role of survival and outdoor use. Stick around for my review of it. Hey guys, Late Boy Scout here, and this is my review, like I said in the intro, of the K-Bar Fin fixed blade knife. Now, as I said again in the intro, this is designed to be a tactical knife. That's what the designer claims it is. A lot of the features on it lend itself very well to tactical use. So why am I sitting here, standing here, whatever you want to call it, before you and presenting this as also an outdoors knife? And by the way, you can look at it and see that it's still got a little bit of outdoors on it. Yeah, still some tree matter and plant matter on there. How can I sit here and tell you that this is a good outdoors knife when it's obviously designed to be a tactical knife? Well, probably for the same reason that I can sit here and tell you that this works as an outdoors knife. The Cold Steel Recon Tanto. I pressed it into that role because, well, I found it for a great deal and wanted to see if it worked. It worked all right. No, it didn't excel, but it did pretty well. Here's the Cold Steel SRK in Carbon V, designed to be a crossover between tactical and outdoors. And it does work well in at least the outdoors half of that. I can't speak to the tactical end because I don't have that sort of a job. Here's the K-Bar BK7, also a great outdoors knife, if a bit large and heavy compared to the others on the table. I can tell you that the Janda Fin is a great outdoors knife because I've pressed it into that role and found that it works really well. Again, much like I did with the Recon Tanto. And when I press it into a role that it may or may not be designed for and find out that it works really well in that role, well, that's all the proof I need. Now I'm giving you some proof right now in footage, letting you see that this knife performs quite well in the outdoors, doing a little bit of chopping. A little bit of wood splitting. A little bit of carving.
Underneath the stick. Ready? Ah!
All those things that a good survival knife needs to do sometimes, this knife does extremely well. If I can speak to the weight for a second, this knife comes in around 9 ounces. I didn't weigh it and I can't really find that information online, but the Recon Tanto, which is listed at about 9 ounces, feels very close in weight to the K-Bar Fin, so I'm going to go ahead and say that it's about that same weight. As far as blade length, we can go ahead and measure that for you real quick. Cutting edge comes in at around 5 inches, just short of 5 inches perhaps, but close enough that I would call it that. And the handle, let's see, looks to be about, well, the grasping area is probably about 4 1/4, something like that. I'm going to say that that's definitely adequate, both for the blade length and the handle. My hand, which is a large hand, grasps it easily and very comfortably and securely. And that's helped out by the shape of the handle and the fact that we've got a little bit of texturing, jimping you might call it, right here. A nice choil here locks your fingers in from going forward. Some aggressive, large jimping. I don't know if aggressive is the right word, but large, pronounced jimping on top of the blade that again gives you a good purchase with your thumb if you're bearing down on that and doing some either thrusting or just sort of push cuts with this thing. And that's very akin to what we have on the BK7. A little more rounded there and also a bit more rampy, and that's really nice. But the jimping itself compares fairly well. So if you're familiar with this knife, the BK7, the Janda Fin compares quite well to that, although it has quite a bit more, as you can see there. I'll point out These holes here in the handle and also going through the blade. Before I point those out though, I'll mention that the blade is completely full tang. You can see that that is all part of the same piece of steel all throughout here. It's all one large piece with a nice puncturing sort of pommel on the end, either for breaking into things, breaking windows perhaps. That's one of the reasons you might call this, or one of the reasons it's billed as and marketed as a tactical knife, because of that semi-sharp pommel, not sharp enough that I can cut myself on it, but certainly if I were to hit that into some flesh, it would cause some damage. So that's all one large piece, as I mentioned. But the reason we have these holes right here, as I understand it, is so that that can be lashed onto a spear. Now that tells me right there that this probably is meant to have some outdoor survival application. Now, you may disagree with that, but I'm going to tell you that, yeah, it does, it can, and if you're interested in buying this knife for that purpose, I fully recommend it. Let's talk a little bit more about ergonomics, though, before we forget about them, and excuse me while I adjust the tripod here. There is still quite a bit more to say about ergonomics with this knife. It's designed to sort of wrap, obviously. It sort of curves with your hand and creates this easy thrusting forward sort of shape, okay? Even if you just hold that like this, it wants to thrust forward, if you understand what I'm saying. That's just kind of how it's made. So it's designed to sort of be this reaching out and puncturing things sort of a knife, okay? That's what it's designed for, as opposed to something like the SRK, which is really just designed to be like this, goes straight up instead of sort of curving out and forward. And to do the same sort of reaching out and puncturing, you've got to rotate your hand and get a different sort of grip on it. Okay, that's one reason that, that this knife would be classified as very much a tactical knife. It's designed to be sort of thrust forward. Okay, that's great for the tactical use, but I think it also lends itself pretty well to the outdoors use as well. And I'll tell you why. As you're carving into something, having that knife sort of thrust forward and have that angle forward really sort of just locks the blade that much more into the material that you're cutting, if you get what I'm saying. It gives you sort of a diagonal edge there to make a nice sort of carving cut with. And that's a good thing. It helps out a lot. So that's, generally speaking, that shape, that sort of curved shape of this knife lends itself well to outdoors use. The handle itself, the scales, this is kind of why, or one of the reasons it's called the fin, I think, is because we have a very scaly pattern on here, okay, reminding us of a fish. Not that you're going to necessarily gut and clean any fish with this. You might. Who knows? That offers a little bit of traction, but these recesses here in the handle sort of negate a bit of that, and I'm not really sure why they put them there. These recesses, they don't seem to do much. I think most of the traction comes from, the locking in plan really comes from this choil and again the jimping. However, I guess it's decorative. I guess it's kind of cool looking. I'll take it. The handles themselves, I believe, are made of a sort of a fiberglass reinforced nylon. I don't think that's G10. It doesn't look like G10. It looks more molded than G10 tends to look. So I'm going to say that's not a G10. It is screwed on, obviously, and it also appears to be, I'm not sure, that might just be paint on the blade, but it could be that there's also some sort of epoxy or glue sort of sealing it on. I haven't tried to remove this, so I can't say that for sure. The grip, though, that handle, at first, the first few times I used it, I didn't like the fact that my middle finger kind of lands on this bump. Okay, and I didn't really enjoy holding on to this knife because that seemed to not work very well, and I wish that this were a little more contoured rather than angled. Okay, those are my first impressions of this knife. After I spent more time using it in an outdoor application, and I have spent quite a bit of time using it in that application, I can tell you that it's not bothering me at all. My fingers actually tend to get closer up together as I grasp it more and work harder with this knife. So they get closer up together and fill this sort of open, this sort of first choil, and then the second one's sort of home for my second two fingers. So these first two are up there, the second two down here, and that actually feels quite comfortable and works quite well. So again, after more experience and more extended cutting and use with this knife, I'm telling you, it's not a problem ergonomically. I actually like it quite a lot. I haven't really addressed the sheath since the beginning of the video, so I'll talk about that. It's a huge win. I love this sheath. It's got a nice little snap on it to help you retain that in place and help it not bang around a little bit, I guess. The belt loop here could be better. It's fine, but it could be better. And here's how. I like the way Cold Steel does their belt loops. Okay, the reason why, you can actually tear that Velcro and put this loop onto your belt without having to undo your belt. That's a big deal to me. I really like that, okay? Yeah, you can undo your belt and slip this on. It's not too big of a deal, I guess. But I really prefer this, and maybe it costs a little more to make, it takes a little more time, but it's highly preferred by me. Now, not only that, the belt loop is fine, and the retention strap is fine. It snaps positively. It's not hard to reattach, okay? That's good, and it comes, you know, it unsnaps very easily, as you can see there. But the retention in the actual sheath is the part that I really love, okay? The fact that you can jiggle this thing upside down and it won't fall out is huge for me. Okay, I don't know that this is a sort of Kydex. I don't think it is. It's probably more of a, I don't know, plastic Zytel type of thing. Very similar to the Securex sheath made by Cold Steel. Very similar material and similar design, really. Very similar design. But again, it gives you a little bit of a traction plan right there, which also kind of is cool that it sort of matches up with the traction on the back of the knife and sort of kind of curves up there into a false sort of pattern. But that gives you a little traction right there for you to press your thumb and release that sheath, release the knife from the sheath, and there you are. That's it. It was a little bit tight at first, and I'll admit to that and point that out to you, because if you come across this knife and buy that and you have a hard time pushing that out of there, I just want to let you know that it is tight at first, but it breaks in and becomes much easier to remove. So, and in a tactical roll, I see this working quite well, because I would simply remove this entire belt loop portion by way of those screws and then just sort of attach it to a MOLLE vest. And I think that would be very secure, would work really well. You could hang that upside down or do it this way. It would stay in place very well without the need for this snap attachment. And I would be very satisfied with this knife in that roll. In the outdoors roll, again, it's super convenient because it pops right out and it goes right back in and it stays there. And you can snap this back on if you're ready to travel again, or you can leave it unsnapped if you're going to be working with it again in a minute. So, in the outdoors roll, Ka-Bar Fin Fixed Blade is a fantastic knife. I can say that now, once again, because I've used it extensively in an outdoor roll, and I love it. D2 steel, I don't think I mentioned that, by the way, and hollow ground. Hollow ground is not my favorite, but it's what I can't complain about performance, and this knife has really performed well. D2 holds an edge for a long time. It's also very hard to resharpen, so keep that in mind. In the field, you're going to have a tough time resharpening this knife, but if you're okay with that, if you're okay with having a knife that holds a great edge for a long time, and then you'll have to just, you know, work on it some more at home when you get back. If you're fine with that, go for a D2 steel blade. This blade shape comes in a few different varieties. I know that there's at least a partially serrated version, and then there's actually a Tonto version. So if you want something a bit more tactical, get that Tonto version. If you want a little more versatility, you might get the partly serrated one. The price on this varies, and you're going to find it in, you know, a few different websites. Amazon.com has had it in the past for very low prices. In fact, I was lucky enough to buy this for somewhere in the $35 to $40 range. You probably won't find it for that price at the time that you're watching this video, but if you do, jump all over it. If you find it for a higher price and you're still in for a great knife for whatever price you pay for it. Again, D2 steel, good ergonomics, a tough knife that's going to get some great work done. That's the K-Bar fixed blade fin designed by Peter Janda. Thank you very much, Mr. Janda, for this awesome knife. I'm the Late Boy Scout, and I'll see you all later.